And welcome to the live stream. Mark B. Photo, nice to have you here. Let's giving you a long hard look at the seagull. So let's go ahead and say goodbye, Mr. Seagull. And there we go. So nice to have you guys here. So I am using a new piece of software. I've used OBS in the past from time to time. Never really took the time to become extremely fluent with it, if you will. But this is Streamlabs OBS. So the company Streamlabs is using OBS, which is open source, bringing it into its own ecosystem, if you will. And I watched a video on it this morning and got pretty pumped up. So here I am, and it's nice to have you guys here. So as you can see, we're looking at some pictures from Mukilteo, and most of these pictures were taken in 2016 and 2017, but there are a few that were taken in 2015. So tell you what, guys, if you don't mind, if you like what you're seeing or hearing, if you think this has some potential, feel free to, in fact, I'd be grateful if you would give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't, and feel free to share. And we can talk about Mukilteo. I'm happy to answer any questions if you like. Looks like right now we have 4 viewers on. Let me check my browser. Janine on Facebook was telling me that she would be checking this out. And I'm going to need to make a clarification. I'm live, Janine. So I'll let her know in case she hasn't found me the proper way, because there might be a bit of confusion. And really, it's all a result of not the software, not the internet, but because of the user, aka me. And let me explain. And I'll get this. Oh, there she is, Real Estate Nanaimo. Janine, welcome. So yeah, we're looking at pictures taken at sunset in Mukilteo. Not far from Vancouver Island in Nanaimo, where Janine is. And of course, Mark B. Photo, just down the road, I believe. So yeah, these, what I did, you guys, first of all, I got to figure this out. I apologize for the confusion. I did a test earlier today. Janine, you and Deb and my wife, nobody got an alert. And it's because I'm doing it through this Streamlabs OBS, and I haven't quite figured it out yet. I've done the typical thing where you race ahead and you want to figure it out before reading the manual, so to speak, although it's really not a manual anymore so much, is it? It's the forums and the support pages. And so tonight I thought maybe I was going to get around that, and I went into YouTube and I scheduled an event, and there's a stream key and the RTMP and all that kind of stuff. And I thought I was going to get the opportunity to put that in there into this software. Didn't happen. It just created a live stream separate from what I put out on YouTube, telling people to go there. Now it's here, same channel. Hopefully, if you were interested, you found me. So yeah, we're looking at pictures taken in Mukilteo, and the neat thing is, some of you, well, at least 2 of you watching, oh, you received the red dot alert. That's fantastic, Janine. Fantastic. Well, that is a good thing. So those of you who live in the area, and I know that includes Mark and Janine, when I say the area in this case is the area impacted by the smoke from wildfires in the Pacific Northwest and British Columbia, Canada. What I did initially is I dumped all my, what I call my web versions, smaller sizes, not so small, of my Mukilteo photos into one folder, brought them into this software to share them. And I think it was a little bit too much. I think it was upwards of 300 pictures. So I just, before I went live, I divided it into 2 different folders. So in one of these 2 folders, there are definitely some pictures from 2016, 2017, where we're looking at sunset from usually Pioneer Cemetery in Mukilteo towards Whidbey Island. And we see the impact of, in fact, this could be one right here, of what the smoke does to the sky at sunset. It can make for some fantastic pictures, but not such good breathing air. You also got the notifications, so it's working good. Well, that's really interesting, you guys. Well, I'll take it. I'm not sure what I did that would change the ball game this time. Maybe it's because after I did the earlier stream, I signed up for the subscription for this software, which gives me the pro tools, if you will. So that said, if someone were to subscribe, if someone were to donate, if someone were to, there are some other things, you should hear a sound effect and a little GIF pop up, depending on which one of those things someone did. So I'll leave it at that. I'm not going to go PBS on you and implore you for donations, because I'm not a public broadcasting station that's in deep need of funding, although any extra support is most welcome, of course. So, and you know, that's something I want to touch on here. I have dabbled in live streaming on YouTube, and I did my first one on Facebook just recently. I deleted that because I thought I had the right setting, and I played with the settings while I was live to see the comments from viewers, and I didn't see the comments. So I felt like I did a very poor job of interacting with people who were making comments on Facebook. So I'll figure that out. Now, many of you, or those of you watching, I know Mark, I know Janine, you have followed me on Periscope. I've been very active, as many of you know, on Periscope since nearly the beginning. Periscope, I believe, debuted in March of 2015. And that's why you put your phone on mute. You just heard that tone, letting me know about my receipt from Apple. So I want to give more of an effort towards YouTube. It's not that I've turned my back on YouTube. In fact, believe it or not, I've actually spent more hours than you would probably could imagine regarding YouTube live streaming, helping out my friend Christian, who's got a great weekly broadcasts now. In fact, he quit his job and he's just putting it all into live streaming, his time. And he's doing a once a week from Surrey, British Columbia, live stream at 5 p.m. Pacific time, all about raptors. Usually the focus is on bald eagles, but all raptors now. And he's been doing a great job doing that. And I've helped him overcome some hurdles. And he uses Wirecast is the software that he's using. And again, I'm using some freeware here. I'm using Streamlabs OBS. Prior to this, I had been using OBS. So feel free, you guys, if you have any questions about what we're looking at, what I'm using, why am I doing this all of a sudden, feel free. I want to give YouTube an honest shot. And, I am very passionate about photography and storytelling. And those of you who follow me are probably going, yeah, we get that, Mark. If you've been around, if you've been following my streams, you know that's kind of what I'm into. I'm also really into breaking news, but I just haven't had a chance to do much of it. By the way, there's a California sea lion. Again, I'm up on the bluff at Pioneer Cemetery in Mukilteo looking down, and there's a California sea lion. I also have some photos of the California sea lions going by when I'm right there at the water's edge on the beach at, I guess they call it Lighthouse Park in Mukilteo, which used to be a state park and is now, I believe, owned by the city of Mukilteo. You still think YouTube mobile is going to take over Periscope in some categories? Great comment, Mark. You know, here's what I think. I think the power of live streaming and the immediacy of it, there's nothing that I think that trumps live streaming right now in terms of video. And most often, I do agree that the audience, the primary audience is, or target area is that device in a person's palm in their hand, right? The mobile phone, the smartphone. And more, I think it's going to go that way. I think, even though I'm a really big fan of landscape mode, 16 by 9, I think, and we're already seeing it, I think we're going to see more and more of it, though, going with the narrower 4:3 view, something like that, because of Instagram and because of Facebook. I think we're going to see some more of that. But yeah, I agree. I think YouTube is extremely much in the forefront because it's powered by Google, and you've got Google search and you've got the tags, and Google owns pretty much search, doesn't it? Though it's not the only one, but YouTube is also Google. So that is all in YouTube's favor. Now, the one wild card, and I was mentioning this a few weeks ago to my friend Christian, and lo and behold, like the very next day, there was yet another article about it, and I shared it with him, and that's Amazon. Amazon can't be any more perfectly placed, strategically placed in this ecosystem as a startup, and if you will, then I mean, it's ideal. You got server farms, all around the world. It's very much in video, and its business model and everything. I think Amazon can really make a significant mark and potentially even overtake YouTube and Facebook in this area. And I think it's heading that way, to be honest with you. But anyway, I think it's important to be in the game, so to speak, if you want to attract any eyeballs towards your brand or whatever service it is, whether it's real estate, whether it's photography. One of the things I really want to do is I enjoy interviewing people. I did it for a number of years, and I get lost in those moments at times, not in a bad way, but in a great way where you're just not aware of anything else but that conversation, and the mind's going and you're taking it all in. So I hope to bring you some interviews as well on YouTube, and perhaps we can have some call-ins. And I think initially I might just do it, quote unquote, phone or Skype interviews with just audio only. The reason I say that is I'm just a little concerned about CPU usage. And I've had a lot of photos going by here, and I should explain that's not the 4th of July right there. That is the annual lighthouse celebration in Mukilteo. They bring these fireworks on, what would you call it? It's like a little barge, and they light them off just where the California sea lions would be going, 30, 40, 50 yards off shore back and forth during the daytime. And this, I think, is in September is when this is held. And the fun thing about shooting this was I haven't done much in terms of shooting fireworks, so it was a good opportunity to experiment and also try and find the proper exposure with the lighthouse itself and the fireworks. And, the year before this, I had been up at the Pioneer Cemetery shooting towards Whidbey Island on July 3rd, 2016, I believe it was, the day before the 4th of July, before Independence Day here in the U.S. And there were fireworks being lit on the beach at Whidbey Island, and that was a good little test. And I did well there, and I think it carried over well to, I think those shots with the fireworks just now were taken last year, if I recall correctly. Now, I think this might involve some smoke from forest fires in eastern Washington or British Columbia. That could have been last year. And yeah, definitely, this is when the smoke was impacting our area. You can just tell because of the way the sun is looking right there. And it got so bad last year. In fact, I was up in Blaine, Washington, just south of the border with Canada at Semiahmoo with my family, the Semiahmoo Resort. And I would say that the sun was about 20 degrees above the horizon when it flat out disappeared. The smoke was so thick. And Janine on Vancouver Island, that's your neck of the woods. So I know, interestingly enough, Janine, you said there was a time where you didn't, you weren't getting smoke when we were. So that must have been some sort of is associated with the winds or the low pressure at the time. But typically, I think you got a lot of that smoke. And Mark says that Amazon is in the streaming market too. They own a site called Twitch TV. It's the biggest site for gamers who live stream. I'm totally familiar. Well, I shouldn't say totally. I'm not well versed in Twitch, but I've been long aware of Twitch. And in fact, a lot of people who are on Twitch use Streamlabs OBS. And when I went in there today, that's what I'm streaming with right now. I downloaded the software, and when I chose the layout, so you're seeing a layout here right now where I'm in the lower right, and you see the Beyond 90 Seconds at the top, and you see where the chat area is off to the left and inside that frame. Comments would appear there as well. All of this is like one of 200 layouts, 200 plus layouts. And the backdrop for every single one of these was a game. It was a still taken from a video game that's, these games that are commonly streamed on Twitch. And in fact, that's where I think, by and large, that's where gamers are. And I think YouTube's been a niche compared to Twitch, no pun intended. But I think YouTube's trying to grow that as well, aren't they? In fact, when I did this and signed up on Streamlabs OBS, it gave me because I linked it to my YouTube account, it gave me a specific link with gameplay.youtube or something with gameinit.youtube, blah, 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 my own unique URL. So, yeah, I'm thankful for the gamers because they've, like so many things are, wherever there's a great emphasis in pushing in the technology and trying to get it out there and make a buck, there's crossover to other areas. Here we have, this photo is pretty cropped here in the way it's laid out. There's more water in the actual image. But yeah, that's when we had some storm activity and some choppy waters. And I know in 2017, one of Como Television's, the local ABC affiliate in Seattle, one of its most viewed stories online had to deal with choppy waters, and I think it was Mukilteo. It was a ferry that my friend Peter was on. He's a photographer with Como, and ended up being one of their most viewed stories on the internet. So you saw a plane just a moment ago. That was an old, I believe, warplane from, I think, World War II, if I'm not mistaken, that had taken off from Boeing Field to Payne Field, going round and around, which is near Mukilteo. And so I got some shots of that. And that's Whidbey Island out there. And in most of my pictures, you're going to see, if I'm looking west, you're looking at Whidbey Island. And if Tom was watching this broadcast, Whidbey Tom, he's oftentimes watching on Periscope. That's his home. He lives out there. He works at Home Depot. Pretty busy on social media, pretty active. Has his dog at that often, Bella, I believe, who he shares pictures with on Twitter and Instagram. And he's been a loyal viewer and great conversationalist, I should say, on Periscope. So yeah, once again, this is, I believe, the impact of the forest fires bringing smoke our way, and that's why the sun looks the way it does there, and you get that fiery color, something that you would expect perhaps to see more in the tropics. Anyhow, I really appreciate you guys coming in tonight and sharing some comments as well. It's fun, Mark, to have your participation and your thoughts on live streaming and where it's going and what the popular platforms are. Where I work, my emphasis these days is on video. I do writing, I do voiceover, I do editing, and I also do live streaming now. We started live streaming in the fall where I work, and I'm the guy who runs it. And it's what we ended up getting was something a bit more powerful, or a lot more powerful than just using my PC here. It's a TriCaster from a company called NewTek. So it's the TriCaster Mini HD 4i. So instead of SDI inputs, it has HDMI, 4 HDMI inputs. And boy, I'd love to have one of those. And in my dream, and perhaps we can make it a reality in the next couple of years, I'd love to have one of those. I've watched people who use them on YouTube. There's a guy named Lon, his channel. I'm trying to remember the name of it, but he uses a TriCaster Mini. He does a phenomenal job. He quit his job. You love the live streaming stuff, huh? Right on, Mark. And what's interesting there, Mark, is I saw your comment pop up in the window over in the overlay. TriCaster is amazing. Yeah. So the TriCaster, so people know, the TriCaster is typically, historically speaking, has been a larger piece of hardware that's typically on a rack, along with other equipment, perhaps related to audio and other things that are coming in. And it pretty much would stay put, in a given live streaming environment. But the TriCaster Mini is mini, and they say it can fit in the backpack. But let me tell you, it's still somewhat heavy. I wouldn't just casually sling it over my back. Anyway, but the TriCaster Mini, I learned about it, and I think it was 2014, maybe 2015, because I watch an English guy. I'm streaming. Embarrassed to say, I can't remember his channel, but he's in England, and his partner for a few years was a guy in North Carolina, and they would communicate live and talk back and forth as if they were in the same room, and they'd have guests in. And anyway, the British guy, he had a sales rep from NewTek literally pulled a TriCaster Mini out of a backpack, and inside of 10 minutes or so set up a green screen, a couple of cameras, and blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, they were live. And that stayed with me. So when work came to me and said, we want to start live streaming, what might you recommend? I went straight to the TriCaster Mini. I looked into other options as well, but I came back to the TriCaster Mini. In fact, where I work, they're considering buying another one now, and between 1 and 3 PTZ cameras, and just equipping a room that they're remodeling and making it strictly a audio-visual room where we could, all our live streaming would be done. And in theory, with the PTZ cameras mounted on the wall, I wouldn't even have to be there. I could have a TriCaster actually in another place, as long as I'm on the LAN, the local area network, throughout the state, because I work for a state agency. In theory, I think I should be able to control it. But anyhow, yeah, live streaming is a lot of fun. And I hope to, I used to, when I first started doing stuff on the internet, I actually had a website that I built that was a very elementary one back in 1999 when I was a reporter, and it became a very useful tool, and it became an incredibly useful tool, and ended up, it was focused on a high-profile criminal case about a missing woman who was presumed murdered, and ultimately I ended up on a network. It's no longer called that anymore, but it was called Court TV. It's now True TV. It's lots of fun. It's hard work. Yes, Mark. Sounds like you have some experience with it. That's pretty cool. But anyhow, I remember being as a guest on Court TV a few times, and that brought a lot of people to my website. I think one day I think I had 30,000 visits, and that was during a time when Court TV was Monday through Friday for a full week, 8 hours a day. It did 40 hours of trial coverage on the case, and I was like the local expert. So, Mark, I want to know what you're using to live stream. Tell me about it. But anyhow, it's just kind of interesting, the timing of everything. Since 1999, rest assured, there are a lot more people on the internet. I remember when I was reporting in Tucson in the early 90s, and I interviewed a woman who was doing something, quote, online. It was like nobody was online yet, okay? It was this whole concept about what this thing called the internet, and she was going to have a, quote, website aimed at teaching parents about, just health-related issues to help take care of your children, what to do if your child's just had some poison, and how to provide emergency treatment, all this kind of stuff. And, it was only a few years after that I started a website. And now I just think about how everybody is connected, right? Facebook basically gave everybody who wants one, gave the world a website. Anyhow, but there are trade-offs, aren't there? So, Mark, I would love to know what you're using to live stream. I imagine you're, doing some Periscope stuff. I'd be interested to know what else you might be using. And the interesting thing about this is, I have to tell you, I know that my computer is also recording this, and I can hear it working out there. So let me tell you about where I'm at. I wish I had a second camera set up. And this version of Streamlabs OBS does not have NDI in it, but standalone OBS does have NDI, and I've used it with my phone as a wireless camera, if you will, in the past as a second camera. But in this room, this is what is it? It's probably about 6 feet by 5 feet. And it's basically a small room that my brother built for me. He's in construction. He's a construction foreman. He built this for me because I wanted to be able to record audio and not hear my computer at all. And I've actually got the door open right here, so I don't think that, you might be hearing it, but I've also got 2 preamps and a compressor and everything over here for audio, so it kind of cuts down on any additional noise. Anyway, this was one day when I was down on the beach, and I believe I was on Periscope and taking pictures at the same time. And if I've got that right, I think we'll even see a shot with it was then an iPhone 6S Plus, I think is what it was. There it is on a little dolly there. I brought a piece of cardboard. You can see it. And I've got a Sony UWP-1 microphone receiver and a little KV connection audio adapter there. And so I was streaming live and taking pictures. I remember I was laying down on my stomach on the beach. You've got some plans for 2018, but you use OBS. I want to do a podcast of some sorts, but still don't have any subject matter. Mark, I'm sure you've got some things to talk about. Just think hard on that, and I'm sure you can come up with something. Well, I'm glad you like OBS. In my earlier video today, the one where the long version unedited, where there's 6 minutes of me going, not realizing I'm live and not talking much, except for every 90 seconds to myself, briefly. If you look in the video description, you'll see a link to Gamers. I'm trying to remember his link. I'll tell you what, let me look it up for you right now. I think I can go grab that for you, Mark. And the cool thing, if I can grab that link for you, this guy has a great channel. He did this, he explained this version of OBS that I'm using, Streamlabs OBS, very well. It's a very recent video too. So let me just grab, you can hear my keyboard here. Now I'm gonna have to get a quiet keyboard. Okay. Okay, this is me live right now. Don't want that. I will grab it for you though, Mark. Just a second, because I want you to have this URL, and Janine, you might enjoy it as well in terms of learning about it, because I know you enjoy Periscope now, and you've got your gimbal. Okay. Okay, do I have it in the edited version? Okay, here we go. Gaming Careers is the name of the YouTube channel. Let me get you the link of that specific video. and share that with you. Here we go. Okay, Mark, there you go. And anybody else? Janine, perhaps you'd find it that interesting as well. And the curious thing about my setup too is my computer, as I mentioned, is in the other room, if you will, and I've got a very long cable for this audio for this computer monitor on this stand, but the other monitor is in the other room. Now I really want to have 2 monitors in here. Can you hook up 3 monitors to a PC? Well, maybe you guys could let me know. I've thought about that. Great, Mark. I think that you'll enjoy that video very much, especially since you're already familiar with OBS. But again, this version doesn't have NDI in it. Now, this version is free, the Streamlabs OBS, but there are some advanced features that if you do a subscription, I think it's $5.99 a month. I just signed up for it this evening because I like the advanced features, and I'm going to give this a shot. And I think you can try it all out for 30 days, and if you want your money back, they'll give you a refund on your initial $5.99 if you're not happy with it. So yeah, check out that video, and then I think that you'll be on your way to kind of sniffing more around it. You run a 3-monitor setup. Okay, well that's good to know, because now I know that I can bring a 3rd monitor in here. Are you using a PC? I take it it's a PC, and you're running on Windows and not a Mac? You know what I'm going to do, you guys? I'm going to just have the text up when you guys chat on the overlay, and I'm just going to get rid of the frame. I don't think we actually need that frame, so let's dive in, and let me find it. Chat box frame. Okay, I'm going to hide that. There we go. So if you guys comment, we'll still see it as an overlay. I just took away the frame, and it'll just be text that comes up. Here's a guy going by on his, and this was during, I believe, the smoke in the air from the wildfires as well. So I'm right above the bluff. I'm right over the railroad tracks in that shot. Yeah, definitely during I think this was last year's smoke from the wildfires. Excuse me, I have some water here. Oh, there's a bald eagle up there. That's right. That was a quick shot that I took. I was live streaming Periscope, and I think I took that just before I went live on Periscope, and then I referenced this, but there was a bald eagle that was up there just overhead. You built a PC, and you got a graphics card that has 3 outputs. Oh, I see. You built that? Well, good for you. By the way, speaking of that bald eagle, I started live streaming, and then it flew off. And so here is that bald eagle now, with the smoke in the sky, and it's flying off right towards the sun. And I remember now I was really excited. I was really excited because I had a bald eagle flying toward a smoky orb. Yeah. And, you know, the pictures perhaps, you know, looking at them didn't live up to the moment, but they bring back good memories. And that was something. Christian is here. Hello, Christian. Nice to have you here. Earlier, I believe in this broadcast, as well as earlier today, I definitely mentioned my friend Christian. Christian is Christian Zassa. Looks like Sassy, if you will, S-A-S-S-E. And it's a pleasure to have him here. He is, I know I was talking about you a bit earlier, Christian, because I talked about some of the YouTube hurdles, live streaming hurdles we've addressed together. But he's on every Friday with his Raptor broadcast at 5 o'clock Pacific time from Surrey, British Columbia. And he has guests from all across the U.S. and in Canada as well, and people call in. And like I said earlier, Christian works full-time on that broadcast now. He's even got 3 volunteers who've stepped up to say, we want to help. 3 women from across the country here in the U.S., I believe they're all in the U.S., who are helping him out. And it's really reflected in the product because it's so informative, and it's growing a great audience of loyal viewers who look forward to that broadcast. Because one of the things about when you're live, you guys, and we're experiencing it right now, you're welcome, Christian, is that we have the opportunity to experience live chat. And so, yeah, there we go. By the way, reference, we took the frame off earlier where around the overlay for live chat. And just having the words up, I think I'm okay with that. I don't know that I needed to see the frame over the image since we're sharing pictures. But I would say 95% of the pictures that I am sharing with you this evening, I think that's from 2015. They are all taken from the same patch of ground, a little small area that's groomed and manicured like a well-kept park, but it's actually a historic cemetery in Mukilteo, right above the railroad tracks, looking off to the west here toward Whidbey Island. And, up until well into the 1960s, that cemetery was basically forgotten. It was grown over with weeds. And in the 1960s, the mayor of Mukilteo and others all came forward to say, we need to get in there and clean that up and bring that valuable and important part of Mukilteo's history back to the forefront. And they've done that in a most impressive way. In fact, now the graves, as of last year, they are monitored in terms of locating them with GPS, with satellites. And it's actually just an incredible location in terms of the effort that's gone into fixing that place up, and also some of the mystery, I would say, that still surrounds it, because like so much of the bluff, if you will, in the Mukilteo and Everett area, and I believe even up into British Columbia, when you follow the railroad, it's been a big problem with erosion because we've developed right along the bluffs. And I can tell you that I've talked to a guy at that cemetery who's just coming through with his wife. He's probably about 10, 15 years older than me, and he remembers being a volunteer in high school and going down to that same spot when these landslides would happen and the trees would go down, and the trees and the roots would actually mangle the railroad. But he would help with cleanup. And over time, there's no doubt, because I've talked to some historians, that some of the graves have gone down the hillside. But a lot of the early founders of Mukilteo are buried there. The Fowler family, their kids, a lot of young children. I wondered if it was smallpox or what, are buried there. But again, all the scenes you're looking at here, and here's one not up at the cemetery, but down below on the main beach that people all tend to go to, which is right next to the historic lighthouse. Moments like this are wonderful to photograph, just to actually just walk along the beach with the camera, and just everybody is having a wonderful time. You kind of get lost. Time stands still. I think for a lot of us in moments like that, you can smell the bonfires. The energy is very much present, and the breeze coming off the salt water. These guys going by, I've seen this going on from above and below here. And again, right here at my familiar perch. So great spot to do photography in Mukilteo. And if you're a person, especially if you're doing photography, or maybe you don't even want to pick up a camera or hold up your phone to take a picture, if you just like to have a little peace and quiet, this cemetery is perfect because, as I mentioned, it's groomed like a park. It's really just, and you're oftentimes almost always the only person there. And they have about 3 benches that are spread apart along the length of the cemetery, which is only about 45 yards, I would imagine. And you're just watching sunsets sitting on a bench. And depending on the time of year, if it's springtime, you might have the cherry blossoms behind you, the rose bushes blooming. You can't beat it. And the train going by directly below. Not so infrequently. It's very common to have either an Amtrak or a Sounder passenger train for the commute, or the Burlington Northern Railroad train, BNSF, going by. So what do you think, guys? Have we made it through all the photos in this folder? Because I've got another folder of a bunch of Mukilteo images as well. Okay, those are the Olympic Mountains. And so on a clear day, yes, you can see the Olympic Mountains. A lot of people think of the Cascade Mountains, and their centerpieces, Mount Rainier, Mount Baker, Mount St. Helens here in Washington State. But there's a near coastal range called the Olympic Mountains, the Olympics. And when you're down at Mukilteo, you're almost obviously at sea level. So you see some of them on a clear day, the upper portion, the peaks. But just up the hill from Mukilteo, if you get up toward Payne Field in Everett, which is only, as the crow flies, probably about 4 miles at most, if even that, from where these photos were taken. But you're on definitely higher ground, and you can really see the Olympics, and it's just fantastic. One of the things about Streamlabs OBS, which I'm using here, is this recently came out, this version of it, and they're working out bugs. And so there should be hotkeys that allow me just to tap a key and advance the photos. Couldn't get it to work, and I read that they're quickly solving hotkey issues, so maybe this was one of them. So there was a setting to kind of set a time for each time a photo goes from one to the next. But this is the kind of thing that you see from up there. And not only have you seen like this kind of more athletic activity, as well as the boats, the ferries, the bald eagles, the great blue herons, sometimes you see stupidity. I was live streaming once, and those of you who follow me would know this. If you didn't see the broadcast, I've talked about it several times. So if you're a regular follower on Periscope, you've probably heard me mention this. But the train, as I said earlier in this live stream, is right below the bluff here. And so, especially when the tide is out, you'll see it's very common to have people passing by. But when the tide comes in, there's not a whole lot of room. There's just the rise to the railroad tracks. And by the way, I think that is a California sea lion down there below that small area just to the, where's my hand? Just, here we go, just over here. There we go, we got a closer shot. Yeah, California sea lion. But there were these young guys, and there was a train coming, a Burlington Northern Santa Fe train, long train. And the guy gets between the railroad tracks with the train coming toward him and head first toward the train, and he starts doing push-ups. Train starts sounding its horn. That's the proper term. And then he gets out of the way. Not too smart. We've also seen a small boat lose its motor. Well, his motor stopped working, and tide was coming in, and ultimately someone came to rescue him. So is this during the Lighthouse Festival in September, or it may have been around the 4th of July, but there's another big annual event, if not the festival, where they set up all the tents and the food and the music and all that. This was a picture. Some folks have asked for permission to use this on Instagram. I had it on Instagram, and this one guy's Instagram site has a lot of likes on this image, far more than I do. But I took that wedding image just by chance. I was down at the lighthouse, and the lighthouse is a popular place to have wedding photos taken. And I love that picture that we saw just a moment ago. They're standing on the seawall, and the sign says, warning, do not stand here, or some words to that effect. Here's the barge with the fireworks coming. And I think, again, this is a September event. It's the annual Lighthouse Festival. The mayor of Mukilteo invited me to that, Mayor Gregerson. And here's that wall, danger, please stay off seawall. So there you go. That's exactly what I was talking about. And I love the fact that there's what amounts to what I consider not caution, but crime tape in the foreground. And here are the folks who are all gathered to watch the fireworks, and they can just see the barge out there. And then here we go. The fireworks begin. And yeah, we did see these shots earlier. So here's what I'm going to do, you guys. I am going to, do we have folks here still? We have 4 folks. Yeah, nice to have you here still. Thank you. I'm going to change the pictures. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to show you a seagull for a moment. And while you're looking at that, I'm going to go to my other folder for some additional images from Mukilteo. I hope you guys are having a good weekend. This weekend's going to go by way too fast for me. Let me make sure I get the right folder here. Just a second. I better double check my work here. Okay, that was folder 2. I want OBS Pics folder 3. That would be what we want. I appreciate that. Okay, so I'm done. And now we're going to go back to the slideshow and we'll have some fresh pictures from Mukilteo for you. Here we go. Yay! It's the person on the left there with the camera. And I think the guy on the right was fishing. And some of these pictures are just kind of average, but again, like I was saying earlier, it's the moment. You know, I look at a picture and oftentimes I can remember the day, the moment, what it was like, the feel of the day, the experience. And I think that's a big part of photography. It's not always about trying to win a contest. It's about capturing that moment. The water here is something that I like. And a lot of times you know how it is, you guys, the water can be smooth as glass. It could be real choppy. You could have big waves. It could be the currents. It could be the wind that's putting patterns and moving it. It could be a combination of both. Here's one of those benches I was talking about at Pioneer Cemetery. And there you go. That's an exact illustration of what I was talking about. So this is the bench right in front of that is where I typically set up to live stream, because it gives me this view where I can see the point with the beach. This is the main beach right there where everybody goes. Behind the tree to the right is where the lighthouse and the ferry dock are located. So here is the ferry. It looks like it's setting out right here. So, yeah. Now, if you like what you see, please feel free to give this video a thumbs up. And if you don't subscribe, it'd be great to have you come along as a subscriber. I think I know Christian and Janine and Mark, I believe you guys are all subscribers. So thank you very much for doing so. Kind of a typical average day there. The reason I took that photo is there's some darkness there above the island, just to the left of the close ferry. That was smoke. It was smoke. So I took that picture. And here is the Dream Lifter from Boeing Field. And you can see the landing gear looks like it's either just coming down or going up. And so that's why I took that picture. And I liked the pink on the clouds too. So again, this would have been around sunset. Very common to see these ships going by, some very large ships at times. There's so much activity and commerce that goes on the water. And growing up here, I don't think I would have ever taken notice. It's only that after going away for 20 years and coming back home and getting out there with the camera, that I find myself noticing more and more of, what has historically gone on around here, as well as a whole lot of new stuff as well, because the population has just exploded. There was a tugboat going by, very common scene. There's the stump on the left with the chains. That's at the left end of the cemetery, the south end. It's fun to be by the runway when that takes off or lands. Oh, right on, Mark. Very cool. When I lived in Albuquerque, I would go to a spot where you can watch the jets come right overhead, pass right overhead and land, and take off. And I loved going out there on extremely windy days. And you get some wicked winds, and they get the spring winds in Albuquerque. And to watch some of those planes, those jets come in, and they have to use what they call the crabbing technique to fight the wind, where they kind of almost go sideways and they lower a wing and they put one wheel down and then the other. Just amazing, amazing skill on the part of those pilots with so much on the line, right? Just crazy good flying. So that's the south end of Whidbey Island. I've mentioned this many times in my live broadcast, but I'll just share here in case people don't know. Whidbey Island is over 50 miles long, north to south. And on the north end of it, you get up towards Oak Harbor, Deception Pass. This is the south end. The island itself is not very wide at all. So from Mukilteo, you can catch the ferry to Whidbey Island. Clinton, Washington is where the ferry docks on Whidbey. Thought I had another comment. So there's our seagull again. Yeah, it's kind of fun to, if you're in Mukilteo, you could either get on the ferry there, go to the island. What I like to do is don't get on the ferry in Mukilteo. I like to go north on Interstate 5 here on the quote mainland, drive all the way up to Mount Vernon, go west to Anacortes. Just outside of Anacortes, before you get there, you can get on the island by going to Deception Pass. There's a very high bridge, the Deception Pass Bridge, and it puts you on the north end of Whidbey Island. Then drive, some 50 odd miles roughly, south to Clinton to get on the ferry that comes right across the water, 15, 20-minute ferry ride to Mukilteo. And of course, there are people who, this isn't just a travel event. This is in terms of free time. It's the regular commute to go to and return from work for those folks who live on the island. I think maybe there are some people on the mainland who work on Whidbey and take the ferry, but most of that commute aimed at work is leaving the island to come somewhere on the mainland, I would imagine. Not quite seeing the whole image here, but it's okay. So what do you guys think? What do you think would be some, obviously I'm sharing photos right now, but what kind of things would you like to see perhaps me address in terms of topics for live streaming? What kind of things do you like? I'm not a gamer, so that's not going to be me. My kids are, but I'm not. Although I was playing with the Nintendo Switch tonight. My 6-year-old really wanted me to stand up and try and beat him in a shaving contest and a dancing copy dancing contest and all these other things. But what would you like to talk about? Would it be news? Would it be photography? More about live streaming? Would you like to hear from certain types of guests? Would you like to hear from a true crime author? I know a few, a couple. Would love to know. Would you like to hear from newsmakers? What I'm looking for right now is just information regarding the quality of the stream. And what's interesting to me is I see 30 frames per second, 0 dropped frames, 2,670 kilobits per second. I was hoping to see something related to CPU usage, and I'm not seeing it. So I'm sure it must be somewhere, but I don't hear the computer working very hard anymore, so that's all good. Let me make sure photography and videography are always fun. Yeah, I agree, Mark. I would be happy to talk about photography and videography. One of the things I do, and I just started, I guess it was probably 2014 or earlier, I started putting some stock, some of my footage on pon5.com, which is a stock video site, as well as audio, and I think you can do stills there as well. And I've enjoyed doing it. I just uploaded a few more clips there, probably about another dozen or so recently, first time in a long time. But it's something that always seems to, there's a return on investment there. I won't say that, I think I have probably fewer than 600 clips there, but I've made some bucks, a few grand over the course of a few years. Mark says he's been looking for new cameras for the past week. So many good choices out there. What are you talking? Well, you're probably looking at a camera that shoots both stills and video. And Janine says she likes all those topics. So good to know, Janine. Excellent. If I was looking at a camera, if I was thinking if my priority was still photography, I'd probably look at one of the Sony mirrorless cameras. They've been out for a few years now, and I remember when they first started coming out, Philip Bloom, who's I've been following on YouTube for years, stills mainly with some video. Okay, there you go. So, yeah, the Sony mirrorless cameras, what are they? The A3 or something? I'm trying to remember what the people who know this are going to say, I can't recall the name right now, but I saw him do some phenomenal stuff in low light, just phenomenal. And I think it was video as well. So yeah, there's some fantastic cameras out there. Some of the Sony, I guess, more traditional camcorders, the A7 series. Thank you, Mark. Thank you. you can get your wireless Sony mic and you can plug them directly into the camera. For example, on the shoe mount on top of the camera plugs in, and you don't have to worry about ever using batteries in that scenario to power your mic, which I love, your receiver anyway. And I think that's pretty darn cool. My friend Guy Cochran, who owns a store called the DVE store. Check it out, DVE. That's like digital video. What does the E stand for? Anyway, dvestore.com. He sells some of those cameras. They're a great business. They primarily ship video, lighting, anything television production type stuff. They're kind of like B&H, but on a smaller scale. Let's put it that way. A lot of people, if you're in the video, you're familiar with B&H. Historically, I've bought a lot of stuff from Amazon. At work, we were doing B&H for a while. Historically, even before I got there. But the DVE store is awesome, and we've started for work buying a few things from them lately, and their sales and their support are fantastic, and you won't pay more there than you do. They'll be at or below B&H prices. So dvestore.com. They're in Everett, and they used to be in Marysville, and now they're located. Guy's done well. He's been written up in the Everett Herald a few times now. It's a very successful local business, and they're in the old Everett Herald building now. So it's a huge, huge space near the water, near the Navy base. This was a great day. This was last year, and I remember the storm moving in, and I actually shot some video. This was that same day. I had my live stream camera, my dash cam. So my phone, I was shooting with my 7 Plus, and I was shooting with my dash cam. We got some good lightning that day. Here's Mount Baker and the Ferry Kittitas. So I felt compelled to share Mukilteo stuff in this stream because I showed so much Snohomish stuff earlier today in my initial test. And what I've learned about myself is I really don't go to Mukilteo much this time of year. When I went back to my archives, and there's a reason for that. I'm off work at 5, and this time of year, there's not much sunlight left after 5 o'clock. Here are the sea lions, the California sea lions. So I'm standing along the beach there, and here they go. 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. At least 4 of them right here. And I never got the photos that I thought would do these moments justice. Maybe 2018 will be the year, but if you get a really good lens, you can get some fantastic shots of California sea lions going by. What they do is they tend to be, I believe they're hunting, okay? And they're following the fish up and down the beach here, because this is what they do. I think this is a theory as well on top of that theory. So I guess they're all hypotheses, actually, not theories. And that is, I think that they wait for the ferry to leave or arrive. And when that ferry stirs up the water, they anticipate that fish are going to move out. And then the game is on. And I've watched little fish literally just jump right out of the water in advance of these California sea lions. So I think that's what they're doing. I think they're chasing fish. Speaking of chasing fish, up here in Snohomish, I've done some Periscope broadcasts along the Snohomish River, especially during what they call the humpy season. It's the pink salmon that return in larger numbers as every odd year, although numbers are down. Why do I say it all like that? I've been told that pink salmon actually return every year, because I've always said every other year. It's just that every odd-numbered year, the greatest number of them return, interestingly enough. And that was shot from the Pioneer Cemetery, the moon there. So I have been in Snohomish, and I've watched seals hunt the salmon in the Snohomish River. So it's about 14 miles upriver, roughly, if I remember what Snowco_scanner told me correctly. It's just pretty cool to see the seals that far upriver. Not the California sea lions, but just, I guess they'd be harbor seals, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm impressed. The stability of this streaming platform. When I listened to the guy's video, I shared the link with you earlier. It's above there in the live chat, where I shared the link to a gentleman's video, young guy's video, about this OBS Streamlabs. And it's just a recent video. He said, I believe that they're using an even better codec to help ensure the quality of the stream, excuse me. And I think this is holding up really well, as far as I can tell. What do you guys think about the picture quality? Not about the subject of the pictures, but in terms of the quality. Does it look like it's coming across? Maybe it's supposed to be 720p. Does it look like it's high def? 720p is high def, and 1080p is full high def, and 4K is ultra HD. Be interesting to know your thoughts. This dock right here, when the water gets choppy, it just moves in 3 segments, so it's like an accordion or so. Look, there's a splash, and I'm a wimp when it comes to that kind of stuff. I get sick if I go on the teacups. Dramamine is my friend. At least it was when I was a kid and had to sit in the back seat on road trips. So I laid down on my belly and took pictures right here. Knowing full well if I stood up, I'd probably tip over. I got to be real. Looks good to you. Oh, that's good to know, Mark. Well, I'm impressed. Now, I will say this. I have good internet service. I have Frontier. We left Comcast a couple years or so ago, and I'll tell you why. It's because Comcast was limiting how much bandwidth you used on a monthly basis all of a sudden at about 1 terabyte. And that was not going to fly in this household because we had cut the cord years earlier with television. So we watch a lot of YouTube, Netflix, so on, and my kids game. And yeah, we went over the threshold. That's what I feared would happen. And then you got to pay extra. So I checked out Frontier, and much more affordable. And there are different levels of bandwidth that you can get. And here's the cool thing. So I wanted to get 100 megabits per second down. Now with Comcast, you can get that. But your megabits per second going up, probably going to be somewhere between 7 and 12. But with Frontier, it's the same going up as it's coming down. So I'm live streaming, and I could live stream 4K because I've got 100 megabits per second going up. Sometimes it's 90 something, but it's right there between typically 92, the very lowest end, I imagine, to 100. So that's the reason why I got that particular package, because I anticipated that I wanted to do more live streaming here, eventually setting things up. And it's been fantastic. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why things apparently look as good as they do. Now, for my webcam, in case you're wondering, I'm using my Canon 7D. It's the same camera that I use when I go out and do my Periscope broadcasts and I'm taking pictures with my DSLR. That's the DSLR. I've got a ring light. And so you say, how do you use your DSLR? Well, it's a USB connection, but I'm using what's called Sparko Cam. It's a piece of software that basically, that's what it does. It turns your DSLR into a webcam. And then I'm not using the camera battery. I'm using the little fake battery. It looks like the regular battery, but it plugs into the wall. I'm forgetting the proper term for that, but that's how it's all coming together. But I like using my DSLR because I think I get a better picture than with my webcam. My webcam is down here. I've got one of those Logitech models. There you go. But I find that sometimes the motion and it kind of looks kind of jelly-like, so that's why I'm not using it. And Janine says it looks good too. Well, guys, I really appreciate you staying up late. I think we've been going for about an hour now. There are more pictures coming here, but I don't know that you've been very polite. I think one of the things a good live streamer does is not go too long, and I've probably already gone too long. Let's see how many. It tells me I have 5 people here, so it's been nice to have the 5 of you here. I know that 4 of you have been definitely Mark and Janine, in the comments, we heard from Christian Zasa a bit earlier. This photo is at Pioneer Cemetery, and I live streamed an event, and this is the aftermath. It was the annual, I believe it was Memorial Day ceremony that they do at the Pioneer Cemetery. I love this moment. There's the rose bush in the foreground on the left, and there they all are having their picture taken, and they're raising their hats for a photographer or photographers on the other side of them, right on the edge of the bluff. But it made for a nice shot, I thought, from the back, where they're out of focus and the roses are in focus. So I will say this, in the future, if when we do this some more, I'll bring other elements. This software can do a lot more in terms of what I can share. And I'm going to have to talk to Mark about getting a card that allows me to bring a third monitor in, because that would be fantastic. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to bring my second monitor in here and not have one outside in the other room at my desk, and that would be a shame. So again, if you don't subscribe, even if you don't subscribe, I think at least 2 of you do, 3 of you do that are watching. It would be fun to watch you subscribe, because I want to see this notification go off. Did you feel the earthquake just a minute ago in Friday Harbor? Janine, I didn't. And if there was an earthquake, I should have gotten an alert right away on Twitter from the U.S. Geological Society. Usually I get that alert. Let's just double check on Twitter. Usually it pops up. I must have silenced my phone, and I did. No, it hasn't come up yet. That's really interesting. So we got some breaking news. Janine is always telling me to make sure I have some water in reserves for the family. Not when, if there's an earthquake, but when the inevitable happens. I haven't received that yet. Let me just check Twitter real quick. The first thing that comes up is The Economist from 2 hours ago. An earthquake between 8.0 and 9.0 magnitude in America's Pacific Northwest would trigger a tsunami. You think? Let's check the latest tweets. That was the top tweet. Okay. All right, retweet. Last quake, 2.9 strikes 29 kilometers northeast of Victoria, Canada, 6 minutes ago. And that tweet's from 21 seconds ago. So let's retweet that. Thanks for the breaking news there, Janine. Wow. So not far from you, near the island itself, or on it. Was it in the water area, or was it on the island? All right. Here we go. Here's one. I'm going to retweet this. I'm Beyond 90 Seconds on Twitter. If you want to see, there's a graphic here. This is from QuakeBot Wa. Let's check out the image. It's just a small one. Yeah, it's just a small one. And so it looks like it's centered just off the northern end of San Juan Island. I should bring it up on a browser, but hang on. Oh, you know what? That's not going to work because I got to manually adjust that. I'm sorry, you guys. Once I get more familiar with the software here, I could just bring a browser, and then show you properly without holding something up to the camera. So it was just a small one. Anyhow, thanks a lot, you guys. Really appreciate your watching. And again, if you like this, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you don't subscribe, would love to have you subscribe. It's been a pleasure having you along. I'm going to grow into this even more. Mark, let me know what you think when you check out the video. It sounds like you're going to. And the link that I shared earlier, it's a recent video about Streamlabs OBS adopting the latest from OBS and what it's doing and what makes it stand out in terms of some people's opinion. I'm telling you what, I'm liking it a lot. I used to use the old OBS, then the new OBS, and now I'm using the Streamlabs OBS. The only drawback I see right now, and again, I'm in the shallow end of the pool because there's a lot to learn here, is that it doesn't have NDI yet. But I was reading some stuff in the forum and support, And the people behind this say that it is coming. NDI is on the front burner. 14 kilometers northwest of Friday Harbor. Okay, right on, Janine. Thanks for nailing it down for us. Again, that was a small quake. Janine, real estate in Nanaimo, who's there on Vancouver Island, tipped us off just a moment ago and continues to nail down the location and stay on top of it. So thanks, Janine. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed the pictures. We can do a lot more than just show pictures, but it's a fun thing to do, I think. And I appreciate your interest in the conversation as well as the photos. You have Quake, the QuakeFeed app on my phone. Amazing how many we get. Well, it's just a fact of life, isn't it? Just like the sunsets, if you will. Earthquakes are part of everyday life in the greater area. All right, take care, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great evening. And really, thank you so much for watching. It's been great to have you all here and enjoyed your comments and engaging with you this evening. I can tell we've been live for now. I found a little indicator here for 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 38 seconds. So it's been a while. Thanks again. We'll do this again soon. Take care, everybody.